What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Kostiw, and today I have got a fantastic episode in store for you guys. For those of you who are watching this show visually, you can see that we are back in the beautiful Koffler Center here at Bryant University. So I'm happy to be back doing live shows on the radio once again, and as well, bringing you guys podcast content as well. We got a ton to talk about today from Mac Jones and the Patriots being at odds over his high ankle sprain injury. We're going to talk about the NFL eliminating the Pro Bowl. We're going to hop into the NBA new world as well and discuss Zion Williamson looking healthier than ever. He is looking fantastic. So we're going to get into that. And then we're going to end things off talking about Albert Pujols and his bid at most likely being the greatest right-handed hitter to ever grace the baseball field. Obviously, that is a ton to talk about today. So I am happy to say I am bringing back a former guest on this show before. He is also the host of the All Ball podcast and is a student here at Bryant University. Mr. Jack Ezold, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. It's definitely been a long minute since I've been here, so
absolutely
happy to be back for sure.
Yeah, man. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah,
Classes are going good. Everything's running smooth so far at the start of the semester.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear about that. I'm hoping that I'm hoping the podcast maybe gets going back up again soon. But I know you're into some other stuff right now. You're doing some blog work. What's going on?
I'm working with Back Sports Page. They're a startup blog site on out of New York, and I've been working and writing for the Boston Celtics for them. I'm specifically covering only the Celtics for them in the NBA.
Yeah,
and it's been going good so far. Just writing articles and having weekly meetings with everybody. It's just good to bounce ideas off each other with everybody that wants to work in sports journalism and podcasting and all that stuff. So it's all people that I have my main goals in life in common with, and we all share a common goal. So yeah, it's really exciting over there.
Absolutely. I can only imagine after the whole situation going on with Ime Udoka, it's definitely had to have been interesting.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week this week for sure. Trying to write articles,
put all the pieces together,
trying to find more information. And it's been a hefty week for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's been a hefty week and stuff just outside the Celtics, which is crazy. I mean, there's been so much Boston sports stories going on. And frankly, this latest one has kind of drowned out all the Ime Udoka news, which for a news story like that, for this to get drowned out is pretty incredible. I know that the news cycle moves very fast and things, can get old very fast and people forget things, but a news story like this to get buried as quickly as it has is very interesting. And we can just jump right into it. And it has to deal with Mac Jones and his injury that he suffered in the week 3 loss of the Baltimore Ravens. He suffered a high ankle sprain on his final offensive snap of the day. Him getting taken out of that place, man, it was scary seeing him walk off. It looked like he got shot.
Oh yeah, he was basically on the verge of tears, walking down the line. I mean, he could not walking. I mean, he was being carried by 3 guys on their shoulders.
And he was on the verge of tears. He had legitimate tears as he was being escorted out of the place.
Not a good look.
No, it was bad. Look. I mean, I remember when Tom Brady tore his knee and tore his ACL in week 1 of the 2008 season. And even he had to get assisted in the locker room, but he wasn't in as much pain as that. So I remember when I saw that all happen, I was like very, very nervous for his sake.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's tough seeing Mac go down. I know we're going to be talking about the future look of the Patriots in a minute, but I think Mac Jones going down this week, especially in the way he went down too, the last play of the game. I mean, it's not going to sit well with fans after we knew we already lost to the Ravens anyways. It's not going to sit with fans. It's not going to sit well with players. And I think this week is definitely going to be a hairy week in practice for them for sure, trying to fix everything and get things right, especially under Belichick.
No, 100%. I mean, this whole injury that Max suffered, I mean, I was kind of tuning in and out of the game. And when I saw the injury, when I heard about it, I was like, you got to be kidding me. And it's just kind of indicative of everything that this Patriots season has been so far. And it's just been a colossal failure on the coaching department.
Yeah, I'd say the correct word for this season so far is just below average. It's the only way you can say it's just below average. I mean, they've had their moments so far. They've had a couple they've had plays. They've made plays. Mac Jones he looked honestly the same as he did last year. He looks like he's prepared and well prepared for every single game, but there's only so much you can do when there's just the playmakers in this league now are just insane. So, I mean, the players that they have in their team on offense, especially, I don't think they have enough playmakers, but I think we'll we'll get into that a little more in a few minutes here.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's kind of the problem. I mean, not only do we not have enough playmakers, but we're also missing, big, pieces that would help protect Mac. Our offensive line this year has been just far from, what it has been in years past. I know that, traditionally the Pats offensive line has never been anything too crazy, but we definitely are missing, some big caliber guys. And unfortunately, Cole Strange has not been, everything that we've hoped him to be so far. So there's been a lot of questions surrounding that. And obviously, the failure of the offensive line leads to the injury of Mac Jones and him just getting beat up in multiple games now. He had to have x-rays not just after this game, but after, I believe, the Pittsburgh game as well. So he's been taking a pretty heavy beating in these first couple outings.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much the actual the sack numbers for the Pats are actually down, surprisingly. I mean, they've only given up 5 sacks through 3 games, which isn't awful. I mean, it's not the worst in the league, but it's not the best. So, I mean, sack numbers are looking okay for them, but I mean, it's just the after the play stuff. I mean, Mac's starting to honestly, we've seen it through 3 weeks too. Mac's honestly starting to run around a little more.
Mm-hmm.
His first year, he kind of looked a little timid in the pocket. It seemed like, I mean, it seemed like he didn't really want to run. It seemed like he was just script, like just stay to the script the entire time last year. And now I feel like he's starting to feel a little more freedom and be a little more free. So I think him running around and beating up his body even more than he did last year, this early in the season especially, didn't help him.
No, it definitely didn't help him. And, there's a couple different ways that you could take him going out there and performing the way he is. You could say, oh, he's, really getting a feel for the offense. But at the same time, I think it's kind of the opposite. I think he's more more questioning the offense now that Josh McDaniels has gone and out of the offense. I mean, when Josh McDaniels was calling the shots, I don't think that he was opting out of plays nearly as much. Now I think with Matt Patricia, who was our defensive coordinator, who's now calling the shots, obviously that's just not a good idea. And he's already starting fights with different receivers, whether that be Kendrick Bourne or even guys like that. But, it's just not ending well right now. And I think that we're in a very tough spot. And I think that Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick, something needs to happen right now. This cannot continue because, again, you just lost your quarterback for what's likely at least going to be 4 weeks and might, to some discretion, might be even longer. So, I mean, something has to change here. It hasn't been effective so far.
But how could it change? That's the ultimate question here of what people think the Patriots are going to be for the rest of the year is if they can turn it around. I mean, obviously we've seen them have plenty of turnarounds in their seasons, but with Brian Hoyer coming in, how is he supposed to satisfy all these receivers that honestly want their own, they want stats and stuff, they want catches, and Mac was getting it to them, but I mean, like you said, the offensive coordinator discrepancies between the two. I mean, nothing's working out with them. But I mean, I don't see how Brian Hoyer can lead this team.
No, I mean,
other than his voice, I really don't.
Yeah, no, Brian Hoyer. I mean, you have to accept, like, Brian Hoyer isn't going to come in and change the offense. The offense is going to have to, and not the offense, the team is going to have to survive while Brian Hoyer is the quarterback of this team.
That's a good word for
Unfortunately, that you have to survive at this point. You can't go in there and expect anything crazy out of Brian Hoyer. It's just not he's just not capable of it. So, I mean, we're going to go into Green Bay. In my opinion, we're going to get our ass kicked. We're going to just completely get rocked there. But we do have some opportunities coming up later down the stretch, which a lot of people think that we have an opportunity to really avoid like missing Mac too much. We're facing the Detroit Lions. We're facing the Cleveland Browns without Sean Watson. Got Jacoby Brissett under center. And while you can make the case that those are easy wins, at the same time, you have Brian Hoyer quarterback, and there's a lot of dysfunction going on in this locker room right now. I don't know. Dan Campbell seems to like have the Lions kind of gunning right now. They seem to be very excited about their team right now. I don't think there's a lot of Patriots players that are excited about their situation right now. I know Mac Jones isn't, because that's kind of leading into the whole situation with him. So I know the Patriots were examining Mac, and we're hoping that they could have him back in about, I think 4 weeks is the max that they're trying to say. I think that if he gets a surgery on the high ankle sprain, it's like a 3-week recovery period. And then, after the 4th week, he'd be able to return. Mac Jones isn't really going at that right now. He's, from what I can tell, he's examining other options. He's getting second opinions to make sure that this is the right diagnosis. And there seems to be already some tension that's growing between Mac Jones and Bill Belichick in that locker room.
Yeah. I want to touch on one point that you were talking earlier about the Lions.
Sure.
Real quick, I love the Lions this year, by the way. I think they're going to be a spectacular team come December and January. I think Dan Campbell is a great freaking coach. I think they got their offense figured out, their defense figured out, and I do not just straight up. I don't think the Pats are going to beat them at all. I think the Lions will beat them by whatever the spread is. I don't care. But now back to Mac Jones, the Bill Belichick Mac Jones relationship. It's tough because we see Mac this year. It's not just the whole team. This is the first year we've truly seen with the Patriots going in that we knew that they were going to be mediocre, or they weren't going to be anything special, I should say. Last year everybody had their hopes that Mac would come in like Brady did and win right away. I mean, that's just not the reality of the NFL right now. It's just not how it is. And this is the first year I think the players are also realizing that as well on the page, like especially the longer tenured Patriots that have been there through Brady and everything. They know they come into every season thinking that they're going to have a chance to win it all. And that's just how it's been for the past however many years, 15 whatever years. And this is the first year that we know that they're going to be mediocre. And I think that's really tough on the organization as a whole. And it just starts from the top.
Yeah, I think it is. It is really tough right now. And I think that I don't know what it's going to have to be, but like the play calling has to get taken out of Josh McDaniels, not out of Josh McDaniels, out of Matt Patricia's hands. Mm-hmm. And something just, it can't go on like this. Cause I mean, now you have Mac Jones who, I mean, think about it. It took Tom Brady 15 something years for really the true kind of problems that he had with Bill Belichick to really come to the surface, and for, his distaste with him to really become something that people talk about. People, it could have been something that had been happening since day one, but the Belichick versus Brady whole dynamic, at least of them as adversaries, was never really a big conversation until Brady's last couple of years in New England. And when Belichick, I think really once Belichick drafted Garoppolo, those conversations pretty much started. But until then, it was kind of like, oh, what's going to happen here? Mm-hmm. And then after that, after Belichick drafted Garoppolo, the relationship soured, and it was like, all right, this thing isn't going to be able to go on anymore. With Mac Jones, it's year 2, and we're not even through year 2, and Mac Jones is already questioning Bill Belichick. So I'm just like, what's it going to take at this point? I don't know.
They need a solidified leader on offense. Yeah. I think that's what they need. They've had a solidified leader on offense for over 20 years now, until now. And honestly, Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady, when they were working together for all those years, it was basically like a 1A, 1B kind of leadership kind of thing for that offense. Like it was both minds bouncing off each other, and now it's literally both minds like clashing. Now it's clashing with each other instead of bouncing off each other. So, I mean,
and it's interesting too, because I mean, Mac Jones is like traditionally like I don't know, with him and Belichick, it's an interesting situation. My audio is kind of weird right now. I want to fix that.
Go ahead.
But yeah, no. So with Mac and Belichick, what I was going to say about them, like it's like, think about it. When has a rookie ever really, or even like a young player really had any, kind of a hold up with Bill Belichick? Even when they do, it gets resolved pretty quickly. So the fact that Mac is looking at Belichick and is saying, listen, man, you're not all that. I know myself better, and I want to take care of myself. I don't know. There's something with that. And I think that needs to actually be looked into.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's also, I think, this generation of quarterbacks and this generation of players.
It's a player-driven league now.
Yep. The players have a lot more control than they ever have in the league or any league prior to this. So, I mean, and also I think people, especially with this generation too, like Mac Jones, is like, he's like our age. Like he's only like a couple of years older than us. Like, and our generation, we're impatient people. Like we want things now, and when we want things, we're gonna go after it, and we're gonna strive to go after it. So I think Mac Jones, he knows what the future of the Pats is looking like, and I mean, they're only getting older, and we've seen in the past, Bill Belichick is not great at drafting skill positions at all. No. He can't do it. So I mean, I think Mac's just looking for the future. That's all he is.
No, he's looking at his future, and he's saying, all right, if I want to actually get a big payday someday, do I want to have to like risk my body for all this right now? And the answer,
I don't blame him.
Here's the thing. I think like had this been the classic Belichick regime and things were going smoothly, and Mac Jones gets injured and he's trying to, and he's saying, oh, he's being apprehensive about coming back. I think a lot more Pats fans would be on Belichick's side and would say, hey man, you make a commitment to this organization. We want you back as soon as possible. Like we need you. And I think like a lot of more people would be on Belichick's side, but with the way things have unraveled, it's completely gone to Mac Jones now. And I think that a lot of people are now realizing Mac Jones has a bigger future with the Pats than Bill Belichick does. Bill Belichick, I don't know how much longer he's going to be here, but Mac Jones will likely be here longer than Bill Belichick. He will likely outlast him here in New England. Now, does that mean that would that mean that Belichick would be getting fired? No, I'm not saying that. And I mean, obviously anything could happen, but I'm not going to say that Belichick is fired. It's possible he could retire. It's possible he could want to step away, go to a different organization like the Giants. But at this time, Mac Jones is more impactful for the Patriots' future than Bill Belichick.
Yeah, for sure. I think I can name probably 5 or 6 players that are more important than Belichick at this point. I mean, just to get into Belichick, just his philosophy and that kind of stuff for 1 second. It's too old of a system, like the world evolves and everything evolves, and he has never evolved. He's never and he's the key thing is it's not even that he's done it with his playbook or anything like that. Like he hasn't evolved any of that. It's not about that. It's just that he hasn't evolved with how to deal with players now. He hasn't evolved with how to deal with the younger generation now.
Yeah, and here's the thing though, for a long time, like everyone, like a lot of football players were like the same. Like you were able to handle like situations in the same way for, Belichick's been years, upwards of like 40 something years now at this point. He's been able to handle those situations the same way for a very long time and get the response that you would accept. Maybe it is a problem with our generation now that, we are very egocentric and there are issues, but, Belichick does need to realize, all right, I can't just like scream at these guys and threaten to bench them or do anything like that. They realize, oh, like I'm getting paid millions of dollars to play. My job, I might have a lot more job security than the coach actually says.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with you there. I don't know if it's more from a money sense as it might think. I don't know if it's more about the whole I'm getting paid, so I'm gonna do what I want and not listen to whatever or Bill Belichick or anything like that. I just think that the relationships between the players is not the same as it used to be just in the whole organization. I think now the organization, the whole team structure, before it looked like it had an actual structure. Like there was a part of the team that was needed to be contributed by certain players, and they got that. But now I think it's just a mishmash thrown together. All right, we have a talent here, we have a talent here, and we have a talent here, but nothing's really meshed together. And we've seen that for past 2 years now, for sure.
No, yeah, I'll say this. I think that you could make the case that like a long time ago, a coach can really like turn the tide for a lot of teams. And you know what? In most cases, I can understand that, especially when you have a really, really good coach, especially some Hall of Fame guys. Belichick in his early days was able to turn this Pats defense into just a powerhouse. You look at guys like John Madden who were able to transform the Raiders. You look at all these different great coaches. And I don't know. I think that I think there has been a shift in the tide to where, you still need guys that know what they're doing when it comes to calling plays, but you can kind of be able to step back a little bit more. And this isn't me trying to throw shade at a guy like Sean McVay, but Sean McVay is a much more player centric coach. Like he understands like, all right, like we need these guys to go out there and do their thing. The show isn't necessarily about me. Obviously he goes out there and he does his advertisements, but he realizes, all right, like I can't just be like the main event here. Yeah. So, and he realizes that
he knows how to respond. He knows how to respond and react to players' emotions.
Yes.
Like especially during the game too. Like he's really key there. Belichick is just not the same in that aspect.
No, and I think you can recognize it because not all, like, I mean, obviously Belichick's always going to be like stoic and like not saying anything during press conferences, but I mean, he can't even like give a firm answer on like what's going on with Mac or doing anything like that. Like there's like, I don't know. It seems like it's like he's shut off more than ever now.
Yeah.
And like he's always been, like just stone faced and like not able to like answer any questions, but he seems like he's been more shut off than he ever has been.
I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with how he's been shut off more recently than ever. I think it's just taken in a different context now than it ever has been because now we're losing. Mm-hmm. So before when Belichick was stoic and we were winning Super Bowls, nobody questioned his tactics. Nobody questioned why he wasn't responding and all that kind of stuff. Now we're losing and he's still doing it. So now people are shifting the tide. Now it's more over exaggerated by the media and stuff like that. I think so. I thought that's kind of my take on that kind of on Belichick's tactics, I would say.
No, I get that. If Belichick was to like be ousted from New England, what would you say? Like, who would you probably try to bring in to, like try to fix this situation with Mac Jones?
Oh man. I don't I don't know if I could give one specific coach. I'm going to say this. I think we need a coach like Dan Campbell, like we were talking about earlier. I
Mhm.
think he's the because this Patriots team is getting younger, but their veterans are also like leaders. Their veterans are they're guys, they're leaders in the locker room. So I think it's the perfect mix of kind of like what the Lions have now with Dan Campbell. Like they have their young guys that they're trying to build up, and their quarter and a younger or not a younger quarterback. Jared Goff's kind of a veteran nowadays, but they got all these younger talents that they're trying to develop.
Sure.
And I think Dan Campbell is like the perfect example of the player centric coach that he's been a player. He knows what a player's emotions are like and how practice should work with players. And he knows how players work in their minds. And I think that's what the Patriots need. I mean, once it's time for a reboot and once everybody knows it's time for a reboot, I think we need a loud voice and a loud presence on the field and the locker room and on practice, like Dan Campbell, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to, I've heard one name being very like talked about in the Boston media, and it was Sean Payton, who obviously
Mm-hmm.
is signed in with a TV deal right now. That'd be interesting because obviously, I've heard some people comp Mac Jones to having a ceiling like Drew Brees. So I think if Sean Payton was able to know how to get that out of Mac Jones, that'd be incredible. And if we were able to get like a Drew Brees type as our quarterback here, I think that'd be great. Another guy I look at too would be Eric Bieniemy, who's the OC down in KC.
Yep.
I think that'd be very interesting too. I know LaShawn McCoy came out recently and was saying like he bickers with players a lot, but I think those claims are baseless. I think that LaShawn was just kind of a bum at the end of his career and really
Yeah.
couldn't keep up. So I think he was just like mad at a coach that because he wasn't getting any playing time. So I think he'd be someone definitely to look at too because he could take that he could take that creative play style from the Kansas City Chiefs and bring it to New England.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, Mac Jones isn't Patrick Mahomes, but I think you could take elements and have different receivers moving around, and you could take parts of that and adapt to a Patriot system and have a definitely a more exciting and maybe some more like theatrics going on with that
Yeah.
within that offense.
Yeah. I just think they just need to they got playmakers. I mean, their playmakers aren't top notch, but they have playmakers and
Sure.
I think they just need to figure out how to get him involved. I mean, I think Eric Bieniemy would be a perfect guy to be able to get, especially the running backs. Like
Yeah.
we haven't had a solidified running back on the Patriots and God knows how long.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being able to work Damian Harris and Stevenson in the passing game more and working them kind of like a James White-ish kind of running back in the day, because that's kind of how the league's working now. I mean,
Yeah.
the more years go on, the more or the less running plays we see in the league. It's all everything's geared towards passing. I think Eric Bieniemy he's kind of like the mastermind over there with Eric or Andy Reid in passing schemes, especially down on the goal line where the Patriots have struggled this year, goal line passing, and a lot of teams have struggled with that actually. But yeah, I think getting that edge and getting a coach like Eric Bieniemy would definitely give them an edge on offense. I think no matter what talent they have.
Yeah. I mean, obviously this is like crazy talks. Like we're like Belichick is still like
Yeah,
his
yeah,
job secure.
absolutely.
His job security is pretty secure as of right now. But I will say if like we have another season like 2020, like things could get interesting here. I don't know what it would necessarily look like, but I'm just saying things could, maybe like the heat could be turned up a little bit.
Oh, I think it'll definitely the next couple of months we'll be talking about the Patriots and their issues for a good while. I mean, speaking of just talking predictions here for the Patriots overall, I don't see it with them this year. I don't see it with them
No,
next year.
no.
There's got to be a change at some point, and obviously Kraft and the whole ownership group is very reluctant of hiring new people and moving off and transitioning into a new era. And I think it's got to come, and it's got to come quicker than I think Patriots fans expected to.
Yeah, sure thing. On a change that has happened, and a lot of people are saying that is like it has like finally happening and a lot of people are actually very happy about is actually in our next topic, and that has to do with the NFL actually eliminating the Pro Bowl. The like All-Star game contest that many people have called for to be taken away for years now is finally gone. Last year was like each year it's kind of gotten even more watered down, which is incredible. The fact that this game can get more and more watered down than you think it actually can be. It's escalated to two-hand touch football and full pads at this point. It's ridiculous. And not just that, like I think you had like Richard Sherman once playing quarterback. Like it gets to be a little absurd.
It's so tough to watch football when
it's painful.
Guys aren't playing 100%. You're so used to seeing guys play 100%, and then you go to the Pro Bowl and then they're just laughing and joking around. Like it's useless. And I'm glad they readjusted.
Yeah. The idea for an NFL All-Star game could be incredible, but like guys just know, hey, what's it worth getting hurt in this game? There's nothing worth playing 100% and possibly, even if you get a cramp or you get anything like that, it's not worth it. It's an exhibition game. You can take it easy. It's not like preseason where guys actually are going somewhat close to 100% and you're, seeing guys really go out there and compete. It's not like that. I mean, it's just very, very low key. And, I'm very glad that it is going away. I mean, they tried so many different things to try to, reinvent it. I think it was Jerry Rice and Barry Sanders. They did like a fantasy draft instead of having your classic AFC versus versus NFC matchups. Then they ditched that and went back to the classic conference matchups. And they were just trying so many different things, man. It just did not work.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because I like All-Star games in sports. The Pro Bowl, unfortunately, is like the lowest one, but I mean, I love the MLB All-Star game. In my opinion, it's the best All-Star game in sports because you can't do that you can't do it halfway. Like if pitchers are going to throw, they're going to throw, they're going to throw their normal speed. I mean, maybe they won't put everything on that fastball, but guys are still going to see, a 95 mile an hour to a 100 mile an hour fastball in that game. And then they're also going to see a curveball and different things on top of that. You can't fake that and do it halfway. And when guys connect with it, and when they're swinging out of their shoes, they're swinging full. And it's just like, you can't do that halfway. Basketball has the same problem to where, sometimes the guys will try, sometimes they don't. And it kind of just looks more like looks like a practice scrimmage where guys are kind of messing around, but baseball does it the best. And it's unfortunate that other sports can't replicate that. And now we are going to have like a week of like skills competitions, and we're going to have a flag football game. And frankly, it's been a flag football game. Like the contest has been a flag football game, but now we're actually going to have flag football.
Yeah. And talking about your point to the MLB All-Star game, I think that's meant something for so long, and it's so special to people to watch. It's because it's actually meant something. It's the only sport that has an All-Star game that actually means something towards the season, or at least it used to.
Yeah.
But like the All-Star, I mean, I do agree with you there. Like everybody will still try at the MLB All-Star game. Like seeing home runs hit will still be fun, no matter what speed the pitchers are pitching at. Obviously, they're not going to be throwing lob passes or nothing like that, like 60 mile an hour fastballs. But like you can't not try in baseball. Like it's just it'll just look way too bad. And in basketball, it's kind of the opposite. You see guys like Steph Curry and LeBron, all them, you can notice them. They're not playing 100%. They're not trying, but they can still do sick stuff. Like they can still hit threes from the logo and still dunk without trying, and it's still cool to fans. But like in football, you can't make a one-handed catch, or you can't run through somebody.
Well, you can make a one-handed catch, but if it's without thrown super easy and it's like just like a whatever kind of catch, like it's not anything,
and it's not going to look special or nothing. It's going to look silly. So
it's not impressive at that point.
Yeah, I think it was outdated, and I think,
and here's the thing: it's unfortunate that the NFL has to lose their All-Star game. But there was nothing that they were going to be able to do to get these players to actually try. I think when they first did the Jerry Rice versus Barry Sanders draft, you actually did see some guys hitting pretty hard. I mean, one of the most classic Pro Bowl clips of all time is Sean Taylor laying out that punter. But you don't get any guys that really do that. And I think at this point, it's kind of understood between guys, hey, if you don't hit me, I won't hit you. Yep. And it's just like, what are we like? What are we actually trying to gain here? Like, we're just like trying to have some fun, collect a little extra money, and play in like a warm climate, like whether that be Vegas, Hawaii, Orlando. That's the whole goal of it. So I don't know. That's my thoughts on that. I'm glad that they're getting rid of it, but it does kind of stink. yeah, I mean, like it stinks that like they're losing the All-Star game, but for what it was worth, I'm fine that it's gone at this point.
Absolutely. I'd rather see players alive and healthy, ready to go all
Exactly.
season long,
No,
rather
exactly.
than have a freak injury at some point and see a great player go down for an unnecessary reason. I'm definitely on the side of no All-Star game for sure.
Yeah.
Or no Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. So we got two more things I want to discuss on the show tonight. Before we do that, though, I want to just shout out Down to the Wire real quick. If you guys are not following the podcast, what are you guys doing? We're available everywhere you guys can stream shows, whether that be on Instagram. Instagram is where you can find our show, but we're available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all those good platforms. You can also find updates about the show on Instagram at down.to-the-wire on the IG. Jack, is there anything you possibly want to shout out?
I'd like to shout out Back Sports Page. Some great guys over there, some very talented guys. Go check out Back Sports Page, www.backsportspage.com. You can find multitude of sports over there: basketball, football, baseball, soccer, even wrestling, MMA, everything you'll find over there from some really talented writers. So you should go check them out.
Yeah. So, you mentioned basketball. In basketball news, I got a crazy thing that, is kind of catching the basketball world by storm. Obviously, the Ime Udoka story has been something that's been very crazy for Celtics fans, but for everyone else, everyone is super focused on Zion Williamson right now because he is, for once, is looking healthy and incredible, which I never thought I'd be able to say.
Finally.
I mean, like, frankly, like ever since this guy left Duke, he turned into just a human, just like he turned into the Pillsbury Doughboy. I mean, like to say the least, he turned into the Pillsbury Doughboy and he was huge. And like, he was just like gigantic. And like, it was like, oh my God, like this guy is like
not in the good way.
No, it
not
was
in the good way.
No. It was not in a good way. I mean, like people were like making tons of jokes about him. They were saying like, oh, he's never going to be able to like be healthy. People were like, he'll be 350 by the time he's 30. And just like it was like how is this, like people were already writing this guy off and saying because he's not gonna be able to keep the weight off, he's gonna be a bust. And it was like wow, that could really suck. But you see him come into Pelicans media day and he looks freaking ripped.
Yeah,
looks great. And not just ripped, he looks skinny and not in a bad way. Like his face, he looks like he's lost a bit of weight in his face.
In shape.
And he just looks ready to go. He looks better than he did at Duke, frankly.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Zion's easily one of the most exciting talents in the league and probably probably top 3, I would say, in the league. Most entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
Either in person or television, doesn't matter. I mean, the guy he jumps out of the freaking stadium. I mean, there's so much you can talk about Zion Williamson. I mean, 27 points in his second year in the league, averaging. I mean, he played 60 games and averaged 27 a game. There's nobody on earth, and everybody said it since his high school days. There's nobody in the world that can guard him. And with him at tip-top shape like he is right now, the best health that we've seen him in the league so far, I think the sky is endless. Everything is endless. The opportunities are endless for Zion Williamson his career if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, Jack, what's crazy is this. I mean, this guy's been in the league for a good solid minute at this point. He's been in the league. This will be his 4th year. Obviously, he missed all of last year with an injury, so this will be his 3rd season that he's played in. But he's only 22 years old. It's like the Jason Tatum thing of saying he's only 19. But Zion Williamson is only 22 years old. He just turned 22 back in July. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that like his prime hasn't even begun yet.
Oh, yeah.
Like he isn't even approaching his prime yet. Like what? Your prime's usually around 26, 27, sometime around then. He isn't even close to it yet. Like he's still 4 or 5 years. Yeah, he's still 4 or 5 years out of his prime. And if he's able to if he's able to get better off that 27 point per game season, I know people will end up saying that John Morant maybe should have been the first overall pick. But that might start to get some pushback if Zion really starts to progress the way people originally predicted him to. When he was at Duke, man, he was a force of nature. And even back in high school when you were seeing those early tapes of him. So now that if he is going to come in the league and actually be healthy, I mean, not only is it exciting for basketball, but it's exciting for New Orleans Pelicans fans. I don't know how many of them actually exist, but it's very exciting. Just like the fact that, we may actually have another team that's going to really make a threat in the Western Conference. I mean, last year without Zion for the entire season, the Pelicans finished with the 8th seed in total in the West, and then took the Suns, who were the defending Western Conference champions, to 6 games. So, I mean, without Zion, they were able to do very well against a Suns team that, was coming off the NBA Finals appearance. So I think that they're going to be a very interesting team now to watch this year. You have CJ McCollum, who's on that roster now. You got Brandon Ingram. You got Jonas Valanciunas, Jackson Hayes off the bench, Larry Nance, Willie Hernangomez as well. So you got a lot of interesting pieces there. I think Devontae Graham is someone that's also been pretty talked about. So there's a lot of interesting pieces on that Pelicans bench that I think they could really make a good run with this year.
Yeah, and one guy I don't know if you said him. I think you might have left him out, but Herb Jones too.
Yeah,
Herb Jones is a stud on the defensive end, and they just, like you said, they got a bunch of young talent, but then they also got some veterans. They got Valanciunas and McCollum as veterans, and they can still ball, they can still play, and they can still put up numbers. And as long as this team can show up on the defensive end, and because they got length and they got a lot of talent, and their starting five is just as good as the next team in the West or even in the East. They got a stacked starting lineup and a pretty decent bench too, a pretty deep bench too.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm
excited for the Pelicans.
No, I am too. I mean, last year they finished 36-46 again with that 8th seed. I think at least they can. I mean, they're going to be better than the Timberwolves next year, who were the 7. Nuggets will be interesting if Jokic can, really kind of keep things together there. I think that they'll be solid, but they're going to be better than the Jazz because the Jazz are falling into the abyss now. So they're going to have a bid at like maybe the 4th or 5th seed in that Western Conference. Yeah. They're going to be a very, very good team next year.
We also got to remember too that I think now looking at it, I think it's even going to be tougher than we thought, because I mean the Lakers were the 11th seed last year, and I don't think they're going to remain there, right? AD's going to be back and healthy. I mean, then they just got Pat Bev to help them out too. I think they'll show up and maybe get a late or a playing game, or maybe then the Clippers. I think they're going to be maybe the top team in the West this year. I mean, They got a healthy Paul George and a very, very healthy looking Kawhi Leonard. I think they're going to be one of the top teams. But then, Jazz, Grizzlies, Warriors, Mavericks, Nuggets, Timberwolves. It's looking good, but I think the Pelicans definitely have a chance to be right in the mix of the playoffs in the West.
Oh yeah, I think we have a chance this year to see one of the most deadly Pelicans teams, frankly, ever since this expansion has happened.
Yeah,
I think that AD had some interesting, he had some good years with them, but he didn't have the depth that this team has. They're in a very good position to really capitalize this year.
I definitely agree with you. I would be scared of the Pelicans for sure in the West.
Yeah. I would be too. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things going on in the West. You got the Warriors who will, they're the defending champs. They'll be back. They'll be contending again as well this year. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the Lakers. I think the Lakers obviously will pick things up. LeBron is still LeBron, even though he is now 37 years old this year. And then we got AD who's coming off injury. So they still have some things to work out. You got Russell Westbrook who, is really going to have to redeem himself after the season he had last year. Everyone has basically written him off as being done at this point, which is incredible for just recognizing the fall of Russell Westbrook from where he was to where he is now.
How it went so quickly too.
It happened very quickly. I mean, even when he was on the Rockets, before joining the Lakers, people were still very high on Russell Westbrook and saying, things can still work out here. That has gone by the absolute wayside.
Yep. I mean, Russell Westbrook has always been a character for the media for sure. I mean, everybody's always feasted on Russell Westbrook content for sure. But I mean,
and I think the thing that hurt his case is because he is such a character for the media. When his play declined, I think that, the fact that he wasn't able to adjust, and because he wasn't the most humble guy, the media never forgets stuff. Like you think of
ruthless.
No, it is ruthless. I mean, I'll give you an outside example of it, but in baseball news, whenever a guy gets elected to the Hall of Fame, if they have a bad track record with the media, if those guys are Hall of Fame voters, they hold that against those guys. Yeah. So, I mean, if Russell Westbrook is ever told off a member of the media and now he's not doing so hot, you better believe that media member is going to be all over him. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just what's going to happen.
Yep.
But man, it's just crazy what's happening out in the Western Conference right now. I can't wait for basketball season to get started again, because once that happens, the storylines just start rolling, and it gets crazy, especially, once you really get into the thick of it around Christmas time, it gets pretty hectic. So I'm excited for basketball season to get started up again. But before we do depart for the evening, I got one more topic for you tonight, and it is about Albert Pujols in his historic 700th home run.
Sir.
He homered twice against the Dodgers. He had his 699th and home run number 700. He is only the fourth player in MLB history to ever reach this feat, which is incredible. I mean, the fact that Albert Pujols, I mean, people were actually a lot of people were doubting Albert Pujols when he came into the season. He said, all right, I'm 42 years old. This is my last season in the bigs. I think I'm going to hit 700 home runs. At that point, he was 21 home runs away. And from what we had seen out of Albert Pujols, he looked like he was cooked.
Done.
I mean, and just to be frank, like Albert Pujols was one of the best hitters in the league in his early days. I think by the time he left St. Louis in 2011, so about 10 or so years in the league, he already had 400 home runs. And I think, I forgot how many RBIs he had, but I think he had like a couple thousand RBIs or something. It was a crazy stat. And a lot of people were saying he could have been a Hall of Famer then. Like before he took the money and went out to Los Angeles, he could have been a Hall of Famer if he retired the first time he left the Cardinals, because he was that good with them. He never, was this big home run hitter that hit like 50 home runs, but he would hit his 35 to 45. I think his max that he ever hit was 47 home runs in a single season. He never had one of these historic Chris Davis or anything type seasons where he's hitting 59 or some home runs. He never had like an Aaron Judge season where, he was, getting close to 60. It just didn't happen. So I think the fact that he was able to eclipse 700 home runs, just being that consistent, it's an incredible feat. Now, he went out to LA. He still had some decent home run years, but his average dipped a lot. And then by the end in LA, he was getting, DFA'd. He got taken out of the lineup there. He got released. The Dodgers ended up claiming him off waivers. He was pretty solid down the stretch for them, was kind of used in a platoon role at first base, which was solid. And then the Cardinals were like, all right, we'll take a flyer on you for the last year. We're going to bring you back, give you your swan song. And he's been a pretty decent piece of that lineup. He's hitting, and I think he's hitting 260 this year, which for him at this point in his career is incredible. And he was able to reach the mark.
Yeah. I mean, 42 years old is just absolutely insane. I mean, when I think of, when both of us think of Albert Pujols, he's like one of the main guys we grew up watching. Like you'd always hear about Albert Pujols in the baseball world growing up.
I have never lived in a world where Albert Pujols has not been in the major leagues.
Yeah.
That's one of the craziest things. I was born in January of 2001. He made his debut that year. And I have never seen a world without Albert Pujols on the baseball field.
Yeah,
we are going to now see it. Obviously, there's been times where guys get injured and maybe they miss a significant portion of the season, but Albert Pujols has never been not on an active roster my entire life. Like, that's incredible. And he's had an incredible career, and I'm so grateful that I was able to, witness it. I mean, again, he joins Bonds. It's Bond. Well, it's Ruth, Aaron, and Bonds, and then him on the 700th list. Like, you would think that there'd be more guys, but that's it. It's a very short list, and all those guys on there, you have a case for being some of the greatest players of their generation. Obviously, people will throw shade at Barry Bonds for steroid allegations, but even with that, some of the greatest hitters of their time, and Albert Pujols joins them on that list.
Yeah, he's a world-class athlete for sure. I mean, he has been since he came into the MLB, but now looking back at his career, I mean, only the best athletes in the world are able to do what he's doing right now at this kind of age. And I think that with Albert being so old and how he basically rejuvenated his career for just 1 year.
Oh, he did.
He rejuvenated for a year at this age. I mean, and we only see the greatest athletes in the world ever to be able to even attempt to rejuvenate their careers. And he did it successfully. So it just shows what an all-time talent he is.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's a ton of people that are saying after this that he's the greatest right-handed hitter to ever live. I mean, he has his case. Now, I mean, obviously there are some guys that you could put in that case. Obviously, one of the other members of that 700 home run club, Hank Aaron. A lot of people look at him as one of the best right-handed hitters. We're gonna look at Pujols' stats right now. I'm gonna see his total career averages. I want to see what he's sitting at right now. If I pull this up, his lifetime average is 296.
Wow.
But here's the thing though. That includes all the bad years he had out in LA, where his average dipped. With St. Louis, here are like the first couple. I'll actually read off the averages until he left the Angels. It goes his first year 329, then it goes 314, 359, 331, 330, 331, 327, 357, 327, 312, and then 299.
Wow.
Like, that's insane. His batting average was well north of 300. And then he went to LA and he obviously had some, rough seasons out there and it just wasn't his style. But he went out there and he was absolutely dominant in St. Louis. And the fact that he was able to go back and just be, kind of seeing some shades of his former self out there, it's really interesting to see. And I think a lot of people are wondering that had he never left St. Louis, if he would actually be the home run king. Because, I mean, if he was playing in that atmosphere and was still able to produce, would he have been able to do it? I don't know. You can make the case that him being a DH might have saved some years of his career.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's definitely a really interesting to look at thing to look at. There's a couple different things too. I'm trying to think what else is going on with Pujols, but I don't know. I've been seeing this going on this year, and it's been just very, very special to see.
Yeah. Again, this guy at 42 years old, hitting bombs off 20-year-olds, throwing to the hardest the league has ever seen pitchers throw. I mean, and again, he's facing elite talent now, especially in the division that he's in. So I think it's an incredible career. Mm-hmm. Definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion.
Oh, easily. I mean, that's not even a question. You hit 700 home runs. You're a first ballot Hall of Famer. Oh, yeah. And I mean, what's awesome too is, I mean, this is his last run. This is Yadier Molina's last run. I believe it also might be Adam Wainwright's last run. So, these three guys that headlined the Cardinals organization, and I was never a Cardinals fan, but I was a baseball fan. You got in knowing the St. Louis Cardinals, you knew of Adam Wainwright, Yadier Molina, and Albert Pujols.
They won big time.
Yeah, they were the trio out there. And the fact that they might have a chance to end this off with another championship, I wish them the best of luck, man. Obviously, one of the interesting things though about about his home run race, which was very documented throughout like the playoffs, or not throughout the playoffs, but throughout this later stretch of the season. And as we approach the playoffs is what I was getting into. But, it was something that was being very heavily looked at. Will he or won't he? What's going to happen here? And one of the things that a lot of people were fearing to happen happened. And Albert Pujols, this historic moment, that one of baseball's most historic moments, a lot of people didn't even have the chance to see live.
Unreal.
And it's because of Apple TV.
Stupid streaming services, man.
And I'm sorry, MLB keeps finding ways to shoot itself in the foot. Luckily, Aaron Judge didn't eclipse Roger Maris's home run record or even tie it while they were on Apple TV. But Albert Pujols, it's not that he just hit 699 and, he would have hit 700 another day. He was able to go out there and hit his 700th home run on the streaming service that no one wants to pay to watch. I get that the games are free if you have like an Apple ID thing, but no one wants to pay for this service, man. Like, no one wants to actually do it. And the fact that you gatekept us, you kind of gatekept us from being able to watch this incredible moment. It's just, it encapsulates everything that MLB is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you 100% there. I'm not a fan of these streaming services myself, especially even the freaking Amazon Prime Thursday night football games nowadays. It's ridiculous. I mean, they got great games going on Thursday night football nowadays, and a lot of people can't even watch it because a lot of people are subscribed to Amazon Prime now, but I mean,
it's not even
especially Apple TV.
Well, it's not even about people being subscribed to Amazon Prime. And listen, I'm not saying that I'm not supporting I don't support people that want to cut the cord and get off cable. Yeah. I get it, because I mean, cable kind of sucks now. But one of the issues with people doing these streaming services now is that sometimes the service sucks. Mm-hmm. Sometimes with so many people doing this, it gets overloaded, which is a problem that you really don't see too much with cable.
Especially in the dorm rooms.
Yeah, no, literally. I mean, you get like this very, very slow service, and sometimes the audio doesn't sync up with the video and everything just seems off, and it's like just so staticky. I mean, whether it be football, baseball, whatever it is, it's ridiculous. And it looks so bad. And I don't know. It's a slap in the face for MLB. They wanted to go out there. They wanted to have Apple TV, who frankly suck at calling baseball games. I don't know if you've ever heard them, but I think they once called, I forgot who it was, but I think they called Christian Arroyo or something Rafael Devers. Like they did something very outlandish. It was like that is not Rafael Devers. It's not even the same. It's not even the same side of that. The guy's not even batting on the same side of the plate. Like, no, I think they called Trevor Story Rafael Devers.
Yeah.
That's what they did. They called Trevor Story Rafael Devers. It was like, nope, not even close. Not even close. And it's like, you got to be kidding me, man. I mean, like, they don't know baseball, and it's painful to watch. And the fact that one of baseball's most historic moments got shown this way, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, my one last point I want to make just about the MLB in general on that kind of sense. It's the fact that even the other day when ESPN was showing live during a football game, or was it the football game? I think it was the Monday Night Football. No, it wasn't the Monday Night Football game. They were showing some kind of sports broadcast on ESPN, and then they split the screen and put Judge on the other side with his first at bat of the game, trying to break the record or tie the record, whatever it is.
Honestly,
I don't know which one it is.
And I don't hate that though. I like the fact that they're at least trying to show it because it's like, hey, this is a historic moment.
Yeah.
And it shows that there are enough people still interested in baseball that want to watch some history happen.
See, that's the thing. But I was looking at, like, right as soon as that was happening, I was looking on Twitter and Instagram and all that kind of stuff about what people were thinking about, like splitting the screen and showing Judge a random, or not a random, but a Aaron Judge at bat that could be history. But people didn't care. People just aren't caring about baseball, even with the biggest records happening that we haven't seen in a multitude of years, that people just aren't caring, and people would rather be like, oh, get that off my screen. I don't want to see that. And it's indicative of what they're doing with Apple TV. They're putting these high quality games with all these games that could be record breaking and could set new history, but the public isn't able to see it. And I think that's only because people still aren't interested in the game, and the MLB is just not doing a good job of advertising their season and all these glorious records that would be happening. Because if something was about to happen with LeBron James in the NBA, the world would be all over it, and the whole world would be watching that one game. But like, it's just not how it is in the MLB, and it's sad.
No, it is. It is very sad. And I think that there are some things that I've heard. I guess MLB might be trying to launch a streaming service to eliminate local blackouts, which is good. So there could be some good things on the horizon. We're gonna have to really look at that as it kind of progresses. But yeah, the MLB always is trying to step up their game. Like, it's very painful and apparent. So hopefully they can get the ball rolling with something down the line.
Yeah, because I mean, players only get more talented in the MLB. So I mean, more records are going to be broken, and as long as people aren't caring, then nobody's going to see or nobody's going to know. Yeah. And it's sad to see, because baseball's America's pastime.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jack, unfortunately, we are now down to the wire, which means that we're going to wrap up everything we talked about in this episode today and send you guys on your way into this Wednesday night. Obviously, Jack, thank you so much for coming on the show. Mr. Jack Ezold, it was a pleasure to have you back, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I'll definitely be back, hopefully soon.
Absolutely, man. I hope to have you back soon. Hope to be back in the Koffler Center again soon. I mean, I love doing live shows on radio. It's always a blast to be able to do it. If you guys want to tune in on the radio to listen to us, we typically do shows on Wednesdays and Fridays from 7 to 8. And it's on WJMF 88.7 HD2, Smithville, Providence. You can also tune in at WJMFradio.com if you want to listen there. So there's tons of different ways to listen to us live. We also have the Instagram live stream that we like to do, but there's plenty of different ways you can listen to us. So it's always, there's always options out there. Now, on the show today, we broke down Mac Jones and Bill Belichick being at odds for the injury that he suffered in Week 3 against the Ravens. We talked about the NFL eliminating the Pro Bowl, and then jumped over into the NBA, where we talked about Zion Williamson looking healthier than ever. Man, looks like he is going to be on a revenge tour this year. It is exciting to see. I can't wait to see what he looks like this year. And then finally, we ended things talking about the MLB and talking about Albert Pujols hitting his historic 700th home run on Apple TV. Again, it was ridiculous that it had to come to this, but it's kind of, MLB deserved it. They deserved to have this happen to them, and for one of their most historic moments to be on some little petty streaming service. So it's been a very crazy day in sports. Jack, I thank you again for coming on the show, but from Down the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Jack.
And we hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care and peace out.